and then I was coaching in the practice in Orlando during the day.
Right.
And then back here for the weekend. So it was kind of zigzagging all over the country.
Yeah.
Every day, doing home visits and basketball games all over the country, and then going to practice in the morning. So that part was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Once signing day happened, things calmed down a little bit. Then I had to find a house in the meantime.
Good.
So my family's here now.
Yeah.
So that's good. They got here early in January, so that's been really good for me. I don't know how good it was for them, but it was great for me.
Right. It sounds like you're not the only one that did that. It seemed like a lot of families were in Orlando at the time.
Yeah, so like my family would probably call West Palm Beach home, but we were staying in Orlando, and so coincidentally, we were renting in Orlando, so we had a lease that was up in January, so it kind of worked out perfectly. Couldn't have been more blessed with that.
Right.
So that part was good. They're here now. They're enrolled. My kids are in school, so I've got 3 kids, and 2 of them are in school, and one's still too young, and so. Bought a house, sold another one from Florida. That part's been kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And then what else we got going on now? Oh, trying to get the kids involved in different activities with school, band, and sports, and then working on the next couple of years of recruiting classes and those things. So getting ready for spring practice to get going. So it's been, while it's slowed down, it never ends.
Yeah.
You know, there's always another recruiting class and another season to get ready for. So.
Coach had mentioned like you guys getting a week off.
Yeah.
Was that all? Is he anyway? Like.
So you get the way Scott does it is one half of the staff will stay in the office and the other half will get a chance to get away. Since we had literally just moved here, I stayed in town.
Oh, okay.
So I was still in the office anyway. It doesn't much matter.
You worked anyway.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, coaches are one of those breeds where you either work 0 hours a day or 24. So I just kept coming in. Much to the chagrin of my wife, I just kept trying to come. But if I'm off, I'm off.
Right.
I'm just telling you, I'm not coming in if I'm off.
How much of that Diet Mountain Dew have you drank the last few months?
Probably way more than my fair share, to be honest with you. You know, way more than I'm supposed to have.
Have you gotten to know the players well? I mean,
you know what? I'm working towards that. It's been really good to get to know some of the guys. You know, there's a couple of them that were from Florida, so I've gotten to know them through high school. Through like Willie Hampton, I've known for a long time.
Really?
Guy Thomas, I've known him for a little bit. Those guys are from South Florida. You know, there's a couple other guys that are from the Florida area. So I've known them as I've recruited Florida for a long time. So for me, that was really good to have a base with some guys and gotten to know like Luke Gifford a little bit. You know, he's real easy to get a chance to talk to, a smart guy. So, you know, it's been good for me to get to know some of the guys, and I'll get a better chance and a better feel for it coaching the special teams. We get a bigger spectrum of the team. So I'm looking forward to that.
Where's your special teams experience? Like,
where does it come from?
Yeah.
I know, it's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
So I've been actually more of a D coordinator most of my career than not. But I've always been involved with the special teams units throughout my whole career. And then as I went to West Point, the head coach there, he was a special teams coordinator at Georgia Tech for a while. He wanted me to run it. And so that's when I really started becoming the special teams coordinator, was at West Point.
Was that the first time you had done that?
As the coordinator for special teams, yeah. And then when I came down to UCF with Scott, he said, hey, you're going to do that again. And I said, okay. And so it's just continued on since then. So really at West Point was the first time running all the special teams. I've been involved with all of my career, but I've truthfully been more of a D coordinator than not most of my career.
Nebraska has to replace a kicker.
Mm-hmm.
How tough is that?
That's not fun. So, you know, we got a good one coming, or a good one that's here in Barrett. He's going to be really good for us. There'll be some interesting kids coming in. Specialists are really different in recruiting because there's always that can't miss, no problem recruit that you get. And I'm not saying that that's Barrett or not, but then all of a sudden they get there and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't very good.
Right.
So there's always going to be those guys that are like walk-ons. It's really one of the few spots left in football anymore where the walk-on kid really gets a true, honest chance to come in and be the starter right off the bat.
Right.
You know, because it's such a different skill set. You never know how kids are going to handle it when they come in as 17 and 18-year-old kids in front of 90,000 people for the first time. That's just a different animal.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're playing at Palm Beach Dwyer and all of a sudden there's 50 people in the stands.
Right.
It's just a different animal. So you just got to see how those guys handle it. And you try to put them in some pressure situations early on in spring ball and maybe put team conditioning on the line for those guys to make a kick or not make a kick. And those guys sometimes will handle the pressure or not. Kind of ease them into it a little bit.
Do you have sort of a philosophy on like punt returns? That was kind of a topic last year. Nebraska
Sure.
didn't return a ton of
Well,
punts.
I think there's going to be a different philosophy all around together
Sure.
in terms of special teams, just from what I've been able to ascertain. One of the things that was really good for us last year in terms of special teams unit was obviously we had Mike back there returning kicks, which he's a difference maker. But the whole mentality of the team was such that, and it really kind of generated amongst the staff, was if you can't start on special teams, then it's going to be really hard for you to start on offense or defense. And so there weren't players that were just reserved that could not play on special teams. From our starting receiver in Traquan to Shaquem Griffin to those guys were all on depth charts for all 4 special teams,
Really?
and they played them.
Really?
They absolutely played them.
So it's not necessarily like you're just a special team
No,
guy
absolutely
here,
not.
So
no.
it's like all
The whole roster is wide open. So that part's really, really good. It gets kind of more buy-in throughout the course of the team because, truth be told, as we sit here and talk about it, nobody cares about special teams until everybody cares about special teams.
Right.
Until all of a sudden there's something gets dropped or someone returns one, then it matters, right? So when you have your starting wide receiver out there as the corner on punt return, and he's doing a really good job, the other players take notice.
Right.
And so that's just one of the things that, from a philosophical standpoint, that we're trying to bring through here that we had at UCF. And then as far as the punt return mentality, I think it's really going to truthfully depend upon who we have back there catching kicks, and their skill set. So our first year at UCF and at West Point, we were way more block oriented because we just didn't have that dynamic of a returner back there. This last year we had Mike Hughes, who's as dynamic a returner as there is in the country. We were way more return oriented.
Yeah.
So I think situationally it'll depend upon who we have back there catching the kicks.
So it's kind of like whoever you have, you'll be more return oriented or block oriented.
Yeah, or pressure
It's basically
oriented.
just seeing what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
What are some of the traits or abilities guys are going to have to show to get on the field like that outside linebacker spot?
With the outside linebackers, so there's a certain innate level of intelligence that you got to be able to have because really it's a unique spot in that you got to be able to line up sometimes as a 5 technique outside shade of the tackle. You sometimes got to be able to line up in space like a true linebacker, like a Mike or Will, and then sometimes you got to line up outside the number 2 receiver, right? Being able to play that guy an outside man. So it's a skill set that's really unique and varied. So assignment-wise, I would tell you that it's probably not all that difficult. We don't have that many different assignments, but technique-wise. So someone who's really conscientious about different techniques and understanding where everybody fits around them would be some of the skill sets. Obviously, we like length. There's 2 things that are really hard to coach in this world, length and speed. So if you have those 2 things, we have a really good starting point. If you're short and slow, probably not going to be a very good fit.
I will try out for outside linebacker.
Yeah. Those days are gone for me, boss.
Did you know Scott well before you worked with him?
So it's kind of funny how it worked out. I was the D coordinator at St. Norbert College for 3 years up there in De Pere, Wisconsin. And Scott was the linebacker D coordinator down in Northern Iowa. He left Northern Iowa, and I replaced him at Northern Iowa.
The same position?
Same position.
Huh.
So we kind of met. He was walking out, and I was walking in. We kind of just stayed in touch throughout the years. But yeah, thanks, buddy. So that's kind of how we've stayed in touch. Yeah.
Being a D coordinator, what do you take from that experience to position?
Perspective probably is the biggest thing I can take. Understanding how your piece fits into everybody else's puzzle. I think that's the thing that I've been able to garner throughout my career, whether it was coaching at junior college, Division III, Division II, 1AA, or 1A, or interning with the Packers, is it gives you a bigger and broader perspective on what it takes program-wide or defensive-wide. So as I work backwards to being a position coach as opposed to a coordinator, I get a better idea of how my piece can help generate the bigger puzzle and not just worry about what my piece is doing. It's a lot less pressure, too. So that's not bad.
Considering that, what do you like most about being a special teams coordinator?
What do I like most about it? Well, here's what's funny. So like everybody's got like the Apple Watch or the Galaxy Watch that takes your heart rate. I wore mine during a game one time. And so there's on average about 35 to 38 snaps of special teams. There's a significant spike in my heart rate every single time we go to kick a football or catch a kick. And so I kind of like that, though. I kind of like that part of it, the excitement that goes along with it. Everybody else gets to hang out, and then I don't. I get to have a little bit more fun with it. So it's not just third down that gets me nervous, but there's also the fourth down and the kickoffs and all those things. My heart rate will bump up to about 120, 125.
Is there one part of that you specialize in, coaching punters, kickers, returners?
I don't know if there's any specialization I have right there for the most part. No, not really. Probably not.
What do you like about Eric Chenander's defensive setup?
I love the fact. So I've been more of a 4-down guy most of my career. I like that for its simplicity's sake. Not because I didn't like the 3-4, but other 3-4 type schemes or multiple type schemes that I've been around. It was like jack of all trades, master of none. It was very hard to have a lot of carryover from one call to the next. What we do now that I like so much is it's such an easy way to come in and out of different calls. There's a lot of same-as principles for the players. So when you're looking to install defenses or you're trying to teach football to your guys, you're trying to give them as many same-as principles as they can, as opposed to I have to memorize what I do on this specific call. Now I can teach them conceptually what's going on. And when you have a perspective of conception, of idea of what's going on, now you can really carry that over into different parts. So it makes your guys allowed to be more multiple without having to learn a bunch of different things.
So it seems like more fluid?
It's way more fluid.
So
it's not as disjointed. Okay. Absolutely. Sure. It's very easy for my outside backers to look like an overhang 3-4 player, or to look like they're playing a true defensive lineman, or to look like they're a linebacker in the box. It's so much easier of a transition for those guys to those calls, to do those within the calls, and it makes sense. So it's a very easy system to learn, in my opinion. It's hard for the outside backers to screw it up.
Sure. Yeah, which makes your job.
Makes my job way better. I can focus on technique, not on assignment.
Playing at Northern Michigan, playing at the AFL,
yeah.
Coaching the road you've traveled. Have you been able to take pieces from all those different places?
Absolutely, all over the place. So I've been where we had to walk out and dig the irrigation. When I was at Fort Scott, we put in the sprinkler system on the practice field. When I was at Northern Michigan, we had to go out and shovel the field because there was so much snow before practice. I painted the fields. Northern Iowa, we had a beautiful indoor facility and one of the best weight rooms in the country. To Boca Raton at FAU, where there's palm trees and Donald Trump and Madonna land at the private airport right next to the practice field. To West Point, which is arguably the premier leadership institution in the world. So every place I go, you learn something new, whether it's just how to fix problems at that specific institution. Because no matter where you go, no matter where you are, each institution's got its own set of issues. You know, whether it's getting kids to fly out to come see you because you're in the middle of wherever, or there's so many kids that want to come see you, you don't have time to spend enough time with anybody, right? We run into that occasionally in Orlando. I mean, everybody can get there, so everybody can. Or you don't have funding for this, but you do have funding for that. So every place I go or I've been, I've tried to pick up some solution to some problem. So I'm one of those guys that's like an avid journaler. I take notes on every single day. I started doing that really more so at Northern Iowa and at West Point, because I learned over the course of time that there's going to be a situation that arose over here that's going to apply someplace else. You know, you learn different leadership tactics from West Point. You learn how to relate to everybody in the world from FAU, because it's just such a blend of personalities and cultures down there. You go to Orlando, which is a slightly bigger stage, and you have a lot. There's just so many things you can pick up from all different parts of the country that I really, really enjoy that part of it. I really, really do.